asking people like, who is Gus? Yeah, how would you pitch yourself?
I don't think I've ever pitched myself like that, but I guess I would argue that I am a adventurer, I guess, an explorer, a natural born traveler. I was born with a severe case of FOMO, of fear of missing out. So I'm always driven by this, internal sensation of not wanting to miss out on anything in life. So I've lived, I guess, a very packed life, and I have no intention in changing that in any way. And yeah, I mean, I've got 3 children. I've got a gorgeous wife. I got my mom and dad with me right now because they came from Argentina and they're stuck in with us. So they're not moving.
That's good. Having the family close.
I'm having my mom with me all the time, which is amazing, and my dad, which means that I'm eating a lot. So I guess that's how I would pitch myself. Adventurer with a severe case of FOMO.
That's amazing. And that leads me to another question, because you're from Argentina. I'm from Argentina as well. And you are from Patagonia. That is one of the most beautiful places in the world. So what made you leave? What made you want to discover the world and get out of that probably comfort zone, or at least that beautiful, beautiful place that many people want to live in, and you were living that place?
I was born in a very small little place, and I lived kind of, I was born in a slightly larger place, but I lived all my life. I think by the time I was 2 months old, I already moved to my town in Patagonia. So basically my mom was living in Patagonia. She went over to Mar del Plata, it's called in Argentina.
Yeah.
She had me there, and then she went back home as soon as she was able to go back.
Wow.
So I grew up in the middle of nowhere, like absolute middle of nowhere. I always, if you're in Australia and you've been here long enough, you've probably heard of places like Broken Hill or Kulupiri or Kalgoorlie. I grew up in a place that was not dissimilar to those places, in the absolute middle of nowhere, nothing there. I always call them, shithole places, right? I know with disrespect, right? I love, I've been to all those places, the gorgeous places, but they're terrible places in that often in those very small regional towns, your life and your dreams are kind of predefined for you, right? Your family and your context, your society decides that your life is going to be this way, right? You're going to buy the house around the corner. You're going to go to study at university. You're going to marry the 2 or 3 girls that my family had picked for me already. It was kind of all predisposed, right? And when I was about 8 years old, I told my mom and dad that I was going to travel the world. And I don't exactly know where this came from. I think I was always very obsessed with collecting coins. And I think just looking at those coins always, I used to mesmerize a lot and think about what would it be like to go to those places, right? So at 8, I sat my mom and dad down and I told them I was going to travel the world. We've come from very, very humble beginnings. So that was like a bit of a big deal to say. But I was very lucky that by the age of 17, I managed to lend myself a scholarship. And I came to Australia to finish year 12. So I came to study year 12 in Australia, very close to Byron Bay. For some people in the
nice place, yeah.
Beautiful place, very lucky. So I ended up in Byron Bay for 12 months. I went to high school. And I guess now, if you want, I can join the dots with the family. But 6 months into that program, I was at school. I was 17 years old and I met a gorgeous girl at school. And 2 weeks after I met her, I asked her to get married with me. And she said no. And I was in total shock because I thought, like, check this out. What do you mean? Like, seriously? And she's looking at me going, no, you're trying to get a visa to Australia. And I went, oh, gosh, that's not true. I think you're gorgeous. And then she said to me that she had a boyfriend anyway. So I cut her a deal in very, very much my style. I said to her, I'll cut you a deal. If I get rid of your boyfriend and I get a visa, will you then marry me? And she said yes to that. So the next day I got rid of the boyfriend. That was the easiest part. And I always say to people...
You didn't kill him, right?
Yeah, well, I tell you why I got rid of him. And hopefully in the audience, I don't offend anyone, but I always say it as a joke, but Anglo-Saxon men cannot compete with Latin American men. There's just no competition. I've got tan skin and curly hair. I can dance.
And that essence of Latin lovers, right?
That's it. So I was no competition. So I basically turned up and the guy had to go. Like there was no chance. But of course, getting the visa to Australia took me a bit longer. That wasn't easy because my dance moves with the immigration officer didn't get me very far. I was, of course, tagged as the drug lord from Latin America, so it took me a little while to get myself the visa. But eventually, eventually I got myself the visa, and actually 3 months after I got the visa, I got married with the girl of my dreams, the one that I wanted to be married with me. And she's out there right now, and I've got 3 children with my
beautiful.
girl of my dreams.
How long was this?
How long ago?
Yeah.
What, 20 something, 1996.
Wow, okay. So you've been living here for a lifetime already.
Half my life, so I'm around 41, and basically 20 years in Argentina, 21, and 20 here.
I can tell you it's still hard to get a visa nowadays. For everybody. It's
very difficult because when you just fall in love, I mean, that was my argument with the immigration officer, was always saying, but I fell in love. I can't, what do you want me to do? Like, what other reason do you need? What is the more important reason you need? There's no other important reason.
Yeah. Love is the most important reason.
Yeah,
that's good. So going back to not only who is Gus, but also what did you do like professionally? You were the CTO and executive director of Lonely Planet at a very young age as well, right? How did you land that job? Because I was reading your kind of biography, and it said, I went hitchhiking and suddenly I landed the dream of my job. So my dream job. So how did that really happen?
Well, so I went to uni and I dropped out of uni. There's a story around that and why education didn't work in general for me, or probably it's not working for my children either. It's not working for humanity, to be honest. But I dropped out. I went hitchhiking around Latin America, and I spent the next few years doing that. And then when I decided to come back to Australia after, I had a few businesses from quite young. So I sold the business. And with that money, I came back to Australia chasing my now wife. And then, look, I had an import-export company. I had a tennis school that I was running. And then a job appears in the newspaper, and my mother-in-law says to me, you love traveling, you should apply for this job at Lonely Planet. And I went, I had none of the skills. I mean, seriously, I don't think that's a fairly far-fetched idea. And she goes, well, just wing it. You always wing everything, so why don't you wing it? I went, okay. So when you asked me, how did you do it? Well, I basically faked my CV and sent it in, and I got myself an interview, right?
What was your first position there?
So I got in as a designer, kind of cartographer, layout designer. Back in the day, there was a role that you could draw maps and lay out books.
Okay.
So I did that.
No Google Maps at the moment, right?
No, that was pre-Google Maps. And then I experienced the entire Google Maps birth and worked very close with Google on those, and got a few good friends that are still working on maps. But yeah, no, and I did that for about a year, and then I changed again, and then I did that for another year or so too, and then I changed again. I was very, I was always a very curious person, and always very led by my curiosity. So I moved on very quickly. Eventually, I landed in the role of kind of heading innovation for the company worldwide. I was very lucky to have the opportunity to work with companies like Apple and Nokia and Amazon, and Nokia, like amazing companies. I always say to people, I got to work with Sergey Brin, in Google X. I did some stuff. I always laugh with people when I say that I worked with Apple and I worked with Steve Jobs, right? And people go, oh my God, I wasn't working with Steve Jobs. And I said, well, I was in the room working with the team, and he walked in the room and I nodded and he nodded back and left. And that was it, right?
That's your whole interaction. Well, but you worked with Steve Jobs.
Okay, I claim it. I worked with Steve Jobs. That was
totally. And they say that teams are extensions of the leaders. So in
some ways,
from some way you work with.
It was a remarkable experience working with those people. So so I had an amazing journey that way, and then turn of events, I ended up in the executive director role, and I guess running the company worldwide, and moved to the US and spent a few years muscling through disruption and digital transformation, and eventually with an amazing team of people and a gorgeous brand. And about 5 years ago, I left Lonely Planet, and now I'm doing different things. So, yeah. So
talking about transformation, how did you leave your corporate position that probably would be a position that you enjoyed very much, and also that was very comfortable for you? Yeah. So how was that change, that process of transformation?
Well, look, I mean, I won't deny it, and I wouldn't want anyone in the audience to think that it's easy, but you know, scary and hard and complex in many ways. But I think the more you expose yourself to discomfort, the more tolerance you have towards it, right? So naturally, being a kind of a naturally born innovator and always a person that likes traveling and being in the discomfort of travel, for example, which is something that, you know, some people can tolerate more or less, right? I can tolerate to the maximum. I'm happy to be in a place where I don't speak the language. I have never eaten any of the food, and I don't even know how to get from A to B. And that's like my happy place in travel, right? The craziest, the better, right? Because my senses are heightened, right? My reptilian brain, my fear factor is like on fire, going, what the fuck is going on around me? And how do I make sense of all these, right? So your intake is higher, right? Your senses take even more. Your amygdala is switched on and is firing, and memories get recorded in thicker ways. And so to me, the process of shifting from a corporate life of 15 years, which even though I had a few businesses during that time, I wasn't, you know, I always had a side hustle, into running my own companies and building my own startups and investing and so on, was not without its hiccups and without the dangers and so on of doing so. But perhaps my tolerance towards it is higher than others, in that I'm kind of, I sit in my pocket when I'm in that kind of state. So, you know, I was, you know, despite the fact that it was quite a transition, I took it, you know, in stride, and I went for it, you know, and I started reinventing various things of my life.
That's good. And you've achieved a lot. So you are now the founder and owner of Rochambeau. Rochambeau, did I pronounce it properly?
Yeah.
Rochambeau, which is, it's hard to define really, right? It's like kind of a project creator agency, creative agency. You also work with leaders. It's like you do many things. But I found something in common, that I think that you're trying to change the mindset, both of leaders and companies. Is that correct?
Yeah, basically unlocking the human creativity that is being trapped for a long time. So it's basically giving people, because don't forget that when you even say the word company, you know, and this is for those people in the audience to hear these, but look, as a company is nothing more and nothing less than the sum of its people.
Totally.
The concept of the company doesn't exist. The business is the sum of its parts, right? Yeah. A company always behaves as the average behavior of the people in the business, right? So if you build a company and your company has 10 people and 8 out of the 10 people are conservative, your company is a conservative company, right? Even if you as a leader stand in front of everyone and say, let's take risk and be crazy and so on, the average behavior of the people in your business is the actual business that you have, right? So at the end of the day, you know, I work on humans because working on humans is what gets you to change and shift companies. So Rochambeau focuses on unlocking creativity and innovation, if you will. So we structure it, we unlock it, we help guide it, we make it happen. We do lots of work with lots of individuals, of course, because that's how we operate at the individual level, but anything from the mailroom to the CEO, right, to the board. So
the company as a whole, and in all its levels, with all the people that are involved in the company.
Correct. And with some companies, with obviously the entire company at the highest level, with some we work with certain teams. So it depends on what engagement we do and how we do it. Like, you know, a company like Victoria University, which is someone that we've been working for a number of years. Not only we've been working for years with them, but we cut across the entire thing, right? Including its ecosystem and its suppliers and partners and everyone. We get involved quite deeply with them.
That's good. So yeah, so that's another of your positions. You're working at Victoria University, but working like an entrepreneur in resident. That's like the title. What does it mean? Like you are free to do whatever you want inside the company, as long as it has to do with innovation and helping the university like move forward, or how is it to work in Victoria University?
Well, it's actually quite a remarkable position, but you're right. I mean, there's two ways of doing entrepreneurs. You know, entrepreneurs in residence have become popular in the last 5 years or so, maybe a bit longer. And basically, it's a position that encourages a certain role that has a natural born tendency towards entrepreneurship to explore opportunities and uncover value, effectively.
Okay.
Right? Because an entrepreneur is nothing more than that, right? An entrepreneur is someone that is, you know, obsessed with trying to fix shit, right? Fix problems. You know, I mean, you just look at it and you go, oh my God, there can be a better way to do this, right? And you can't help yourself, right? I'm that kind of person. I'm the person that sits in the cafe or the restaurant, and if the table is a bit wobbly, I'm the first one that fixes it and goes, this is broken, this needs to be fixed. Or if I think that they can fit another table, I will go to the manager and say, hey, did you realize that if you turn the tables around like this, you can actually put one more table, which means 4 more customers, which probably means another, you know, and I just tell them whatever comes up, or, you know, because I can't help myself, right? Or if the coffee's not right, I tell them. And my wife is not, my wife goes, no, don't tell them, it's okay. And I'm going, no, they need to know. We need to fix this, right? We can do it.
And what response do you find from business owners in these type of situations? Do they listen to you?
Well, no, it depends, of course. Now, remember that a natural tendency of all humankind, of all of us, right, including me, biologically speaking, we are incentivized to create routines and do the same shit over and over again. So anyone that wants to disrupt the norm, it's obviously in some way, shape, or form something that is disrupting and annoying, right? So now, of course, my entire life has been one where I struggle with trying to convince people that there might be better ways, right? So when it's quick and fast and you can show the fixes straight away, you know, they show me rather than tell me, normally they do accept it, right? Because it's very quick. As long as it doesn't impact them in any major way.
Yeah,
but if you tell them something, in general terms, like, nah, too hard to move the tables, fuck it, don't worry about it.
I don't care. And do you think that innovation and change is a must for every business?
Yeah. You either drive it yourself or it gets driven upon you. So it's not a question of can you do it or not. It's a question of the path that you take to do it, right?
Well, it's something that we are seeing nowadays, right? With these
exactly.
changes.
This is why at the moment, you know, the concept that I shared not long ago on my social channels is that we're not in a place of adaptation. We're actually in a place of acceptation, right? Acceptation being a biological term, which means that you repurpose an organ that evolved for a particular reason to be used for something else. So effectively, in business terms, is you build the capability to distribute logistically, I was talking to a business recently, I talk to lots of business very regularly lately, that they have a warehouse full of hip and knee and shoulder replacements for elective surgeries. And elective surgeries have been canceled. So he's got a warehouse full of this, you know, equipment, technology that he doesn't know what to do with it. And he's got capability of distribution and logistics and movement. So he needs to now redeploy that capability to do something in a forced way. So instead of slowly adapting to expand his, you know, perhaps revenue streams and or capabilities, he's now forced to do. He's got no choice because everything's going down to zero. So he needs to force. In biological terms, he's often used the penguin wing as an example, that the wing in a bird was developed for flight.
Totally.
And penguin, you know, turned it into a swimming device, right? Through acceptation. Yeah.
Totally. Well, yeah, in fact, a part of our body as well, I don't know if it's the liver, I'm not very scientific, but one of our organs also doesn't have like a known function nowadays in the modern body. I don't know. I don't want to get into those topics that I don't know about. This is very interesting, and I can see a parallelism also with professional career. Many times through even people that are working for a company doing the corporate job that you were mentioning before, they also have to reinvent themselves and understand that their role is not relevant anymore, or somebody newer or younger is going to get their position and they have to repurpose themselves.
Correct.
So this is a concept that applies for anybody, in fact.
For anything. It's quite critical, you know, again, it's a sum of its parts. Don't forget that anything that applies to a business applies to the individual. In fact, the other way around, it applies to the individual first, and then the sum of it is what the business does. But yeah, no, it's absolutely critical that you're always investing. You know, I said actually in my last post, I talked about making sure that you always invest in your own share, right? You own all the shares of your company.
Totally.
You, right?
Totally.
And the share that you should invest the most in, when people come and ask me, how do you invest, guys, what's your strategy? I say, well, I've invested for many years in my own share. And I've invested enough to the point that now I can start investing in other shares, right? But first and foremost was always mine. I think it's very important. I used to tell, and I still do today, everyone that I ever hired, the first thing I always tell them as soon as I hire them is that they should start looking for another job. And it always shocks them because they go, what do you mean? I mean, has something changed? And I go, well, no, not really. You still got a job here, but I want you to start looking for another job. And it was a critical KPI for me that they're always looking for jobs because it's important for them to keep themselves independent and autonomous and unbiased towards me as their owner of, you know, the business or the leader of the team.
Totally.
Right? Because otherwise I don't get the true, you know, unbiased, you know, feedback or opinions. I get something that is biased because they all of a sudden work for the company who work for me. And that means that instead of telling me what they truly think, they tell me what I want to hear because they've got no other option. But if they had other option, if they were investing in themselves and looking for other jobs and having opportunities, you behave in a very different way. If you know you've got plan B and C and D, you know, immediately available, then you tell whatever you want to say because you know that if that doesn't work anymore, then you go to the next one, right?
Totally.
You can negotiate and so on, but also it keeps you active and keeps you active in the mind to ensure that you know what the market is demanding and how to move from one thing to the other and so on. So making sure that you, on a regular basis, put yourself through the discomfort, if you will, of changing your current into the new, or even just exploring the possibility of doing so is really important.
Yeah, and I can add something, investing in also your personal brand, that people know you for who you are and not only for, if you're an entrepreneur, your company, or if you're working in corporate, for the company that you work for. I think it's very related to what you say. And that's why I push so much on people, hey, work on Me Inc., which is what you're saying, your own shares, your own investment, and make sure that the legacy that you leave is not the company, it's what you are leaving for the company. I always talk with business owners, and I also try to tell them, one of your jobs is making yourself replaceable for the company, because the company has to go on when you are not there and has to be able to work without you in the company. So I think this is very related to.
That's the same if you're a founder as well. Exactly the same if you're a founder. The quicker you replace yourself, the more you grow.
Exactly. Totally. And in fact, I think entrepreneurs, I have a marketing company in Argentina. I participated in many projects as well in Argentina. And I think that as entrepreneurs, we always want something new. We always are curious to learn different things from different industries, identify different business models. So at least I don't see entrepreneurs as settling with only one business, with only one business model, but as somebody who is more curious and active to change and find new things. So if you don't make yourself replaceable in the company, how are you going to also allow you personally to achieve these other things that I think as an entrepreneur you usually have?
Which brings me to the point again that you asked at the beginning about being an entrepreneur in residence. Traditionally, the entrepreneurs in residence are actually hired full-time, which is kind of like you know, immediately you kill the very essence of an entrepreneur. Because if you have an entrepreneur in residence that works full-time for a company, he's not an entrepreneur. I mean, at best, you're an intrapreneur, which is a concept that is discussed a lot, and it's true. It's needed. Entrepreneurial thinking is important inside companies. It's all good. But I say, if you truly want an entrepreneur in residence, that residency needs to always be part-time.
Totally.
But the entrepreneur can continue to be an entrepreneur outside. So my relationship, for example, with the university is not a full-time relationship. I mean, it's full-time in that I'm always thinking about them. I'm always thinking about education. I'm always thinking about everything, and I'm always connecting dots. But I don't have a timetable. I don't have a particular time that I need to be there. I don't have an office. I work with all of them, the entire system, and I go in and out. And, you know, one day I'm having a meeting with the minister and the vice chancellor and the chancellor. And the next meeting I'm with, you know, the biggest employer in the West, and, you know, science works. And the next meeting I'm sitting with a student helping them with a little startup. You know, it makes no difference.
So I read somewhere that you are about this full-time work format. You support non-full-time work format, and it's this that you're explaining. But what about your employees? Do you have them full-time working with you, or do you prefer having people working part-time with you?
Part-time.
Part-time.
Well, I'm always encouraged to keep pursuing the dreams and the goals and the things that they do. So there's never a block in that how you actually get stuff done. So the more you can do effectively outside, the better it is. Because you can always bring new ideas and new thoughts and new things.
Cool.
I mean, it's not a rule that, I mean, it fluctuates and flows.
Yeah, and it depends on the person as well,
hustle
right?
go in and out and so on. So this truth that I share, if you will, my truths, they're never exact and they're never perfect. Everyone, listening right now needs to turn it into their own life and their own world, right? But hopefully they're just shaking people's thoughts up in terms of how you could operate for themselves.
And we are talking a lot about innovation. What is innovation exactly for you?
Innovation is fixing problems.
Fixing problems. So we teach, for instance, design thinking at Inside Academy. Do you use, at Inside Academy, we teach design thinking, which is basically identifying problems, having an empathy with the user that is experiencing that problem, and trying to get the best solution today with this context. So do you think that the first step for innovation is design thinking?
Yeah, look, I don't like the title or brand things. I mean, I think they're all models. I mean, they come and go. Design thinking is the one that we're using at the moment as a catch bag for that behavior of observing a problem. Scientific method is not dissimilar. It was a long time ago. And
Totally. I always do that parallelism.
But what I do say is that, innovation is fixing problems. The problems sit on a spectrum. Think about it, right? There's super simple problems that you can fix in seconds just by going, I have a problem in the way my office works. I'm going to just put my, power cords this way rather than that one, shift the computer around, and all of a sudden I'm more comfortable. You effectively just innovated, right? It's only super small. It's a tiny little tweak. It made you, 2% more productive, and it's an improvement in your happiness in the office, but it's a tiny little problem. All the way to climate change, right? Climate change will require innovation. Is a problem we have, and we have to come together across a level of government to be able to actually solve that puzzle, because it's a really, really big one. But all of them, the entire spectrum, in some way, shape, or form is innovation. And then what happens is in that spectrum, you can think about it as you do lots of things that are innovative in business as usual, BAU. Often people tend to think that business as usual is not innovation. No. Fucking business as usual is one of the most important parts of innovation. If you don't do BAU, you disappear. There's no fucking business. So you have to do BAU, and you have to do it innovatively, right? And then I always talk about the way I structure innovation in my mind, in careers, in businesses, whatever I want to give advice, is to imagine that you've got a little circle with BAU, and then a hop, a step, and a jump. So I say your innovation needs to be stretched, right? You need to be able to do things that are a little bit further away from you, that are a bit distant and a bit more uncomfortable. Step is further away yet again, and you are speculating a little bit more about the future. And a jump is out there, right? You've got no idea, but you're already playing with it. If you're not stretching your activity across this, this kind of way, you will find yourself caught up in innovation that is useful, but very, very immediate. And you need to always be able to stretch it out.
Okay, interesting concept. And what do you think about being action-oriented and planification? Because many times we end up planning, but not executing so much. But I also think that both things are important. I read something about explementation, right? You mentioned something about, instead of planning an implementation plan, it's more about explementation. What do you mean with that term?
Well, first and foremost, to say to people that, I always, you'll hear me say that every time you do a plan, you kill a fairy. So you shouldn't do plans anymore, right? They're a waste of time.
No plans.
Well, because you plan and shit changes all the time. The typical Mike Tyson one that says everyone's going to plan until you get punched in the face, right? And at the moment, everyone's getting punched in the face. So it's not like the plan goes away.
That's life, right?
Pardon?
Life is about receiving punches in the face, I think.
No, I think planning has a place, but I think we often tend to overrate, overvalue the value of a plan, and undervalue the value of action, right? The importance of action. So we end up skewing the picture. So we ended up, if you use ratios, we spend, more than half of the week planning and only a little tiny bit of the week executing. And it should be completely up and around. It should be executing most of the time, acting most of the time, and then planning some of the time, but very little, right? But at the moment, the balance is the other way around. The reason why it's the other way around is because, of course, the longer you've been in business, the more, order there is. The more order there is, the easier it is to plan it, right? Because you kind of can plan out. You go that, this book system and business has been around for a long time. We know that if you plan 12 months out, we know that we're going to get this space in the bookshop. Everything is planned out and ordered.
And less risky.
And less risky. But when businesses and markets and chaos thrives, you can plan less because, of course, everything is out of control. And all of a sudden, the order that exists there is in disarray and disorder, right? Innovation, I always say to people, is shifting things from disorder to order. I didn't want to get philosophical before, but if you think about it, all you're doing is working against the second law of thermodynamics, which is, a physical law.
Yeah.
Everything moves towards decay. So it doesn't matter what you put in place, process, system, group of people.
It has a life cycle.
Eventually it decays. Everything decays in life, everything. And the job of innovation is to literally keep reorganizing it so that it has another life cycle in some way, right? Anyway, I'm getting really deep in philosophy. We can talk about forever.
No, but it's super interesting to see it that way.
Hang on, let me go back, Lucas. Let me just answer the implementation just to make sure. So the experimentation concept is a simple one. I used to say as a CTO, I was running technology. One of the challenges that I had was that, of course, every company that came to sell me something, the first thing they thought about is how fast I can implement this in your business. So it was all about implementation plans. And I kept asking them for how quickly I could get rid of them, because I knew that if I could get rid of any system or process I put in place fast, my ability to adapt and keep shifting was going to be better than the person that can't get rid of it, right? So I asked them for an experimentation plan, which was, how fast can I get rid of you once I implement you? And of course, this caught them off guard. You can imagine if you're a software vendor, thinking of how fast can you remove something is not something that is in your common lingo, right?
Yeah, automatically a CRM came to my mind.
The same thing I say to people, when you learn a new thing, when you put a new process in place in your life, your question should immediately be, and how quickly can I get rid of this shit if I do it? Because if I can't do it fast enough, then I'll always be stuck with it. And once you get stuck with it, you're fucked, because you can't shift fast enough. So experimentation is a concept that I'm always thinking about, because I'm always thinking, how fast can I get rid of shit and move things away rather than bring things in and fast, right?
I think that is very related with adaptability, right?
Correct.
It's about being able to react to different situations.
Which is the essence of, as you know, I'm a keynote speaker, is the essence of my keynote, right? It's all the concept of how do you stay as adaptable as you possibly can throughout your life.
And again, nowadays, the message cannot be more accurate, right?
Correct.
How many calls are you receiving about this? How can I adapt? How can I?
Non-stop. It's been non-stop for the last 2 weeks, and it will continue to be so. From postnatal depression, businesses to, like I said, elective surgery, hip and knee replacement businesses, to wheelchair, production, to you name it. Over the last few weeks, it's been every business non-stop.
So you say that you're from the future, obviously as a joke. So how does the future look like with this new context, with all the crazy things that are happening? What's your imagine a future? How does it look like?
Well, it's highly unrealistic, which is what I love. I've launched a quasi-launch. I couldn't quite launch it properly because of everything that hit. I put everything on hold, but I've got a foundation called the Unrealistic Foundation, which works on transforming education worldwide. And I always talk about how important it is for us to be more unrealistic than realistic, right? And more than ever now is important. And I tell you what, the world that we're about to head into as everything starts, going past the survival mode into recovery mode, it's unrealistic compared to what it was 3-4 months ago. We talked about not being able to reduce carbon emissions because of the economic machine and capitalism and this and that and the other. And now we're seeing places reducing carbon emissions by 50% in a matter of days. So clearly,
it was possible.
It's possible. As unrealistic as that was, it's fucking possible. And that's the thing that I keep saying to people. You must be as unrealistic as you can. Not realistic. Fuck realism. Fuck anybody else's reality. Fuck anything that you believe that you think is realistic, because it's not. Truth was, at some point in time, removing polio from the world was unrealistic, and then we did it. At some point in time, it was unrealistic to think that a woman should vote. And what the fuck, now we look about it and we think about it and we go, oh my God, I can't believe we were like that. Well, at some point in time, we thought the economic machine that we invented with credit and, capitalism was impossible to stop.
Totally.
We stopped it. Now, sure, with collateral damage, I get it. Categorically. There's no question that there isn't collateral damage in all these things, but it's possible to do it as well. And what it does is it sparks your mind to think, what does the world look like if it doesn't grow at 9% a year, right? Or whatever it is. What if it grows at 2%? At the moment, if any economy is growing at 1 or 2% a year, it's in recession.
Yeah.
What if 1 or 2% was actually okay? And maybe we chilled a bit, right? We relaxed. The problem is, and perhaps this might curve a little bit exponential growth in population as well, right? And not because of deaths. I'm not saying because of that.
Yeah.
Don't take this wrong. I'm actually saying that because of just the natural tendency of us to slow down a little bit. We've been on a frenetic place, and pace for the last, couple of 100 years. And maybe this is a bit of a rebalance of that and what that looks like and how that's going to impact us, what is going to be significant for all of us, categorically. But look, you can never say that, the future is better than the past or the past is better. I think it's completely irrelevant to do that. Is it going to be different? Categorically. Yeah, categorically.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, with technology, I think there has been an acceleration always, because technology never stops, it's like never satisfied. Progress is never satisfied, they say. And I think this is very related with what you are saying. So as can you say then that as innovators or entrepreneurs, our goal is to develop those unreal solutions to the real problems that we have nowadays?
Keep finding the problems that we need to fix and don't be realistic about fixing them. Yes. Okay,
good. And going back to action, because this is one of the places where most of the students of Inside Academy struggle. Taking action, but not only taking, but keeping it throughout time. I think consistency is where people struggle the most. How do you keep consistent? Because I can see that you haven't stopped since you were born, more or less.
Look, I don't know. I think for me, in my particular case, I'm driven by that fear of missing out. I can't help myself. I'm always driven because I always go, what if a day goes by and I don't get it back, right? So I'm always very conscious of that. But I teach my children that, it's really important to always get caught with your hand up. So you always should be pick me. You should say, yes more often than no. And you should say yes for most of your life until you can start saying no, because often you don't get a choice at saying no until certain things fall into place. And I always say that the most important thing is to turn up. So turning up is the most important thing. I tell people, even when, I train a lot, right? I do a lot of CrossFit and I surf and I do various other things, but, and I keep my fitness up despite my travel. I travel, every year. I mean, this year is going to be almost zero, which is going to be remarkable. But the last 4 years, I've done on average about 250,000 kilometers a year.
Wow.
If you got time with a calculator, figure that shit out. It's a lot. I actually fly more than flight attendants, on average, like enormous. But I train all the time. And there's no one day that I don't train. And if I need to train in the airport lounge, I train there. If I need to train on the plane, I train on the fucking plane. It doesn't stop me. And if I need to train in my hotel room, I train in my hotel room. I don't care. I turn up. It's 5 o'clock. I need to turn up. All right, here I am. What do you want me to do? And even if I need to do, 10 push-ups and 2 sit-ups rather than,
it's whatever. The incremental little things, but doing it consistently over time and every day and not stopping.
The most important bit that we all forget is to turn up. So even when I'm sick, I train. How crazy is that?
This is super important for a sport like surf. I also surf, so I know that your body is everything in surf.
So even when I'm sick, I train because, I reduce my load and everything, but I still turn up. It's 5 o'clock. I need to get out of bed or get whatever.
And it's the same for business then. So every day you have to show up and do it.
You have
and get it done.
If you don't turn up, you will struggle. So, and again, don't get overwhelmed by what needs to happen when you turn up.
Yeah.
Just focus on turning up. Once you're there, it gets easier because you're there, right? And
you know what to do as well.
I've done 2, I might as well do 3, and you do 3, and then the next day you go, I'm feeling okay, I might do 5, and so on and so forth. But the bit that is the hardest is to turn up.
Yeah, I get it. Hey guys, I know that you are super busy. Do we have some more minutes with you so we can open it to the audience?
Hang on, let me just check what time is my next meeting quickly.
Okay.
No, I got 10 minutes, so you can.
Perfect. I can open it up to the audience then. Let me check their questions. So a lot of love here, a lot of people telling you that you're great, that you are dropping gold here. So thank you very much. Thomas asked how to have the right entrepreneurial mindset. And can you tell us how to set our mind so we can make an impact in the business industry?
Okay. Look, entrepreneurship is, some people ask me, can you teach it? Are you born with it? I mean, there is a variety of it. If you're born with that insatiable desire of fixing shit up all the time, then you're kind of naturally born as an entrepreneur. If you also have lived a life of, propensity towards risk, then you're also naturally born entrepreneur. But you can learn these things, right? It's only a matter, it's like adjusting to anything, right? If you've always, let's say that you've had a fairly sheltered, fairly conservative, fairly well-structured life for 5 years in, high school, uni, a job in a corporate of some kind that it's structured 9 to 5, normal, and you all of a sudden considering starting to be an entrepreneur, you can. It's just that the first thing you need to do is A, start turning up, and B, start getting comfortable with discomfort because it will be uncomfortable. That's it. So how do you do that? You do it every day. You can do it with the most simplest of things. And don't drive home the same way every day. Don't sit in the same desk. Don't meet the same people. Don't read shit that you always love. I read books that I hate. And I fucking read them just to annoy the shit out of me, right? Just to go, there must be something in here that I need to learn that I don't know, a perspective that I'm ignoring, or, authors that I don't necessarily respect, I still read them. Just to give myself a challenge, right? So I think if you want to get started and if you want to have a mind of an entrepreneur, you need to be, very comfortable with that discomfort. Get curious, spark your curiosity, hit your brain with novelty on a regular basis. If every day or every week you're not doing something that you've never done, you're in trouble. Yeah,
develop new connections in your brain. That's how you make it.
Well, use connections that you never use. So the brain, the way it operates is subconscious or regular patterns in your brain that create rituals and routines is because you're using the same neuropath.
Totally.
So the way to actually feel uncomfortable is to burn a new neuropath. So, I've been learning for the last year and a half to play drums. Every year I do something new. I hit my brain with novelty all the time. But holy shit, my first drumming lesson, fucking hell, my brain was like on fire. There was like neurons that I never thought.
What is this guy doing?
I know, and my brain's going, use 4 limbs in different ways. And my brain's going, do not do that. You've never done it before, So, but that's the key, right? That's the key.
So for you, entrepreneurs are not born. You can become an entrepreneur over time.
Yeah, completely. I mean, if you're born with those kind of qualities, it's easier. But totally. No, of course, you can learn to be entrepreneurial. Yeah, of course.
Right. Here I have another question, which is, what advice would you give to a smart, driven college student about to enter to the real world, and what advice should they ignore?
What advice would you give as college student?
Let me make it simpler. What advice would you give to your 18-year-old self if you can travel in time?
I would have told me at 18 that do not underestimate how much more I can achieve with others than on my own.
Sorry, say that again.
I would have told myself that you can achieve exponentially a lot more with others than on your own.
Okay.
Often when you're young, you tend to think that, of course, you can take on the world and, that you're smarter than everybody else and that you've got solutions, and it's very common to all of us. And I had that tendency too, right? It was like, I'm right, I know I'm right, I can't, everyone is dumb, and fuck, if they did exactly what I told them, we would all be successful. And and you realize that when you start lowering that way of thinking, and you start wrapping your arms around people and being far more empathetic and understanding that not everyone vibrates or operates in the same way, and that there are different shapes and shades of human beings that have strengths and weaknesses in various different ways, including your own. You start being able to aggregate the power of many to achieve things that you cannot achieve alone. And if I learned that lesson earlier and quicker, it wouldn't have taken me until 33 to to run the biggest travel companies in the world. I would have run it a little earlier. It took me a little bit to click on that and get my head around that. And
it's interesting. Maybe that's why you like very independent sports, right? You mentioned CrossFit, surf. I think that you also are passionate about tennis, right?
Yeah.
So all the sports that you practice are more individual sports.
When I was young, I was obsessed. You're right. I never liked to depend on the team failing. It was like, if I fail, it's my fault.
It's up to me.
Up to me, right? But I put my kids through individual sports, but also team sports, because I realized the flaws in my upbringing without realizing that it created. Sure, it creates other benefits too, but there are important lessons to be learned in the power of many.
Totally. Yeah. There is a quote that says that if you want to get there fast, go by yourself. If you want to get further, you have to go in a group. So totally perfect. Here we have another question, which is, which do you think is one of the biggest challenges as migrants in Australia? Apart from the visa.
Well, I mean, one of the greatest challenges, of course, is building yourself a network, right? Takes time. Having no network anywhere you go, it doesn't matter if you're here or somewhere else, or even if you move industries within the same country, building a network is always a time-consuming challenge that you can't underestimate its importance. And then once you build it, you have to always feed it, right? Because often people misunderstand what a network is and how you build it. Networking means what can you give, not what you take, right?
What value do you add?
And figuring out what can you give is one of the biggest puzzles, right? What the fuck do I have that anybody else can actually benefit from? Is actually quite a challenge.
But there is always something, right?
Of course there is. But you have to figure out how you do that. So once you do that, then you start giving, and then you start building that network, and then you need to keep feeding it, because you need to keep giving into it to be able to keep withdrawing from it. You can't withdraw from a network that is empty. You have to withdraw from a network that is full of credits. So to build credits, you have to give. So that's probably one of the biggest challenges, building a network. I think that's, but it's the greatest opportunity, because you're an unknown quantity, which means that you can build a network in whatever shape you want, which is amazing, right? In a regional town like the one that I grew up, you grew up already with a network of your family, if you will. And like it or not, that is it. Well, in places like this, when you migrate, you start from scratch, and that gives you an opportunity to actually.
Totally. Yeah, and this is actually why I came to Australia. As I told you, I have a business in Argentina, which is still running, and I had a huge network there. I was working with the government in the entrepreneurship ecosystem, and suddenly I decided to kick the board and start all over again, to come here to a new adventure, not knowing anybody. No, in fact, I'm lying. I knew one guy who is a geologist. He studies fucking rocks. So imagine how many business connections that guy can have. And that was one of the decisions that made me come to Australia. So I feel very related to what you're saying. And here, Jose sends you greetings. And they are asking, first, if you know how to cook an asado.
Of course.
And what is your favorite secret for the asado?
You see my parrilla? That's my parrilla right there.
That's great.
Sorry, cook an asado was the same question?
And what was your biggest secret for asado cooking?
Oh, the biggest secret. Oh, well, the sauce of the meat, of course. So you need to know your sauce.
Very important. Yeah. Having good ingredients, right?
Yeah, if you get, and then don't just get too involved. Don't get too clever with it. Just
let it do by itself, right?
Let the thing that has been happening for 2.5 million years do its thing.
Totally.
Slowly.
Okay, and to close, so we've been here for more than 10 minutes. Sorry for that. What is an unusual habit or absurd thing that you love?
An unusual, sorry, go again?
An unusual habit that you have, or an absurd thing that you really love? It's a hard one, eh?
Unusual habit.
Something that makes it's very unique to you.
I paint my toenails rainbow.
You paint your okay.
My toenails have been painted rainbow.
Like a rainbow.
4 or 5 years. My daughter paints them rainbow, always different colors. All my
and you have that together.
And he makes my toes happy, and he makes me wiggle them. And
your soul is happy as well.
Yeah, I'm always, in a. There you go. There's one of my little rituals that I do every couple of weeks. My daughter opens up a shop, and I got a membership card, and she takes care of my toenails.
Okay, perfect. That was unexpected, but really, really interesting. So yeah, let's go.
There's actually
power, colors, and love.
A story of an entrepreneurship behind it for my daughter, but we can talk about that next time.
Perfect. Okay, guys, thank you very much for joining me. I love this conversation. I think the audience as well. They are sending a lot of love and greetings. So see you next time and enjoy the mate.
No worries. Find me on Instagram, or I'm not on Facebook, but Instagram or Twitter.
Here, Gus.
Ask me questions, reach out to me. If you need help, just let me know. I'm happy to be there.
Okay, thank you very much, Gus. See ya. Bye, everybody. Thank you for joining.